All right, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the background noise. As you know, I had shoulder surgery on Monday, so I am also trying to kill two birds with one stone. I just have my air compression on right now, trying to heal, but this is going to be a fun one. We have Nick here, who is going to be a Bitcoin kind of hopefully my regular on if we can get him on. But welcome, Nick.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yep, I
It's
uh,
been
I love Bitcoin. I love finance, and I'm really happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. There's always a lot of people tuning in, hoping to have some Bitcoin knowledge or information on here. So you are the first one to take me up on it. But I also came across you because you were also interviewed by Michael Zuber, who I follow, a kind of big part of that community of one rental at a time. Why don't you kind of give a 60-second spiel on who you are and what do you invest in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently still a high school teacher, but I was a real estate investor for the last 6 years. I had a one single family home with a garage that I actually turned into an ADU. So I made it into a small multiplex. And then I also bought a duplex. Well, basically, it was two house and ADU as well. And I was renting those out, self managing, and really enjoying it. Thought it was great. And I learned a lot through Zuber and everyone through that community as well. And he was happy to have me. But at some point in 2022, I decided to switch it up and sell everything and go all into Bitcoin. And that's what I've been doing these last few years. And so far, it's been great. Timing has been wonderful. I guess it could have been even better if I was 10 years ago when it was a dollar or something. But yeah, everything's been great. Making a lot of money, but more than anything, really learned a lot about Bitcoin. And I'm here to answer anybody's questions. And I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. If anyone is tuning in because they thought Derek was going to be here, mobile home park investor, he had a last minute obligation, so he's not going to be able to make it. But me and Nick are going to roll with this. So if you haven't, there's Nick's new YouTube channel and new Instagram page. He's starting off fresh, so go follow him, go subscribe. And also, I put in the interview he did on Zuber's channel. So, like you mentioned, Nick, you kind of went all in. And when you say all in, do you really mean you went all in on Bitcoin?
Oh, I went all in. I threw 100% of my money in Bitcoin. I mean, I had uh, just tons of money in Bitcoin and very little in my account. You know what I mean? And that's how it was. Everything I sold from the properties, I threw it all in. And right now, I'm 95% in now too. I was 75%, and then I go to 150% with margin, and I'm switching it up back and forth all the time. But yeah, right now I'm 95% in, and it wasn't a great day yesterday. You know what I mean? But that's part of the ups and downs. I think that's the biggest difference between real estate and Bitcoin. You can kind of see the price fluctuate every single day. So some people, they text me when it's going up, and they're like, Bitcoin to the moon, and then some people will ask me what's going on with Bitcoin. It dropped $1,000 or something. So it's kind of interesting that way. But just like you would plant a seed, a flower or something, a tree, you wouldn't dig it up every day to see if it's growing, right? The same thing is with Bitcoin. You got to just let the price move the way it does. You know that it's going to be going up forever. At least that's what I believe, and that's my investment. So I'm pretty excited about it. Not all days are great, and not all the time was easy, right? There was some tough times, especially with people like Gary Gensler and people in the past from the last administration. And it's not a knock at the administration, but they didn't really want Bitcoin to flourish as much. And this administration is a little bit more pro Bitcoin, and a lot more actually. I'm pretty excited about it.
So, like you said, was real estate, were you struggling on that side? Was there something about it that made you want to pivot, or just something the light bulb turned on for the Bitcoin side?
Let's see. So I do my real estate here in Southern California, LA County, San Bernardino County, and I don't think there was anything that was specifically struggling about it. I learned a lot doing my own self management with my wife, and some things that I was noticing was, you increase the rent. I try to use Dion's strategy and increase the rent with the binder strategy, but the insurance cost was kind of taken away from all the profit gain that I would increase the rent. And I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, man, I'm trying. Is this how it always is? I was a new investor, and as the COVID happened and inflation has happened, things have got more expensive. and people don't really like their rent raised. That's what I've come to learn, at least here in SoCal. So you kind of got to prep them beforehand, even that, hey, I raised the rent. I try to do it every 2 years instead of every year, just so they could have a heads up. And I also learned that turnover isn't great either, because that could get really expensive. You kind of got to repaint all the walls and make it brand new again. But overall, I didn't have a bad experience with it, really. I had a few funny experiences, uh, have somebody move in, and then it seems like they never lived there, just their friends live there. You know what I mean? So you find different little things about it. But what I really just thought was, I thought Bitcoin was like a kind of like a wave getting ready to surf, and I thought it was like the right time to jump in, and so that's what I did. I just took a chance, which was really difficult because I spent obviously a lot of hours with real estate. I love real estate. I'm going to go back to it again. But right now, I'm just really enjoying the Bitcoin wave, and I think it's going to continue. At least, I think it's going to continue forever, honestly.
So before we kind of dig into more of the specifics on that, was it just strictly Bitcoin from the beginning, or was it you were kind of dabbling in all different cryptos?
Well, a couple years before, I was dabbling in different cryptos. I didn't know much about it, and throw a little money in Doge, throw a little money in ETH, and I thought they were all the same, truthfully. And then as I come to study it, read the Bitcoin Standard that a friend of mine gave me, great book, and you kind of learn that fiat money is going to zero, and that supply and demand, which I loved with real estate, applies to Bitcoin as well. There's only 21 million coins that are ever going to be mined. And really, there's not even going to be that many, because of Satoshi has coins that will never be spent or used. So there's really about 15 million coins ever. And if 15 million millionaires bought a coin, there's no more left. So I always thought, with supply and demand, and as a history teacher, I'm going to go all in on Bitcoin after that, once I learn how it really works. I also love the mining system. So as these miners mine for Bitcoin, they're also keeping it safe from hackers as well. So it's not that easy to hack Bitcoin, or else somebody would already do it. It's over $110,000. A hacker would love to grab 5 coins, you know what I mean, or whatever it is, but they couldn't do it. They're not going to be able to do it, and that's why I realized, just between supply and demand and the safety of the coin, because that's kind of what you worry about when you're in the beginning. What happens when someone hacks it? Because then it's going to be worth zero, or what happens if someone hacks me? So you throw it on a cold wallet and keep it safe that way. You know, yep.
I want to just say good morning to some people tuning in. We got Frank Old Guy REI tuning in from Watsonville, California. We got Flavio tuning in from Grandview, Washington. Jason is tuning in. He is on his way from Home Depot. He said he's going to listen in. Big Cody is here. I think I can maybe safely speak for, kind of the general consensus for the one rental at a time community. A lot of people are kind of this buy and hold, one rental at a time mentality. So for you, like, when did that switch kind of flip to say, okay, this asset class is not maybe as risky as people are talking about out there?
Well, um, I Well, once I learned more about the miners, like I said, and being able to kind of keep it safe, I learned more about that supply and demand. I realized that the asset class was safe from deflation. Sometimes in housing, there's a housing crash just from oversupply, not just mismanagement of the home loan situation like in 2008, but they just overbuilt. But for me, I always, when I invested in California where I live, I really invested for inflation. I still cash flowed in all of them. So I know that there's great deals to be found anywhere, but inflation was a big deal to me. And I saw some great deals. I had my wife become a real estate agent because I was planning to buy a new place every year, and then turn it in, turn the garage into an ADU. And I kind of saw that system working, and it does work. But I saw some great opportunities. Inflation was really high. I saw that the interest rates were kind of up and slowing down some things as well. And I just thought I can maximize my dollar, which I did. Like, if you could go back and look at my rentals that I had, 1451 East 9th Street in Upland, I got an extra $100,000, all cash buyer, 14-day close than when I bought it for 2 years later, and I already made money on amortization, and I made money on cash flow. So I was like, I'm going to take the opportunity. And then same for the ADU here in California. It costs a lot to make ADU or build ADUs, but I found someone that could do it for cheap. First guy quoted me 200 grand. This guy quoted me 115 grand. And I used him and I had to make a decision. And I was like, man, I could get a lot of money right now. And I had perfect timing on that one. That was 1130 East Workman in West Covina. And it was right around September when the rate started to dip again, that first rate cut. And I just had perfect timing. Sometimes you just get lucky, but it was kind of planned as well. But I wanted just something a little less maintenance, I guess. I had a little bit of bad luck on one of my rentals where just like every month seemed like something was breaking down. I was like, what is going on? It's a brand new, place. It was 100-year-old house, but it was completely remodeled. But sometimes flippers could rush through things a little bit, and I found that the hard way. But nothing too major other than the gas line going out and had to shut off. I was like, what do I do now? I never did this before, so but it was all honestly a great learning experience. I loved it. And I really believe after you do one, you really could do more. You feel so much more comfortable. And I think for me, the biggest thing was in California, I was worried about just evictions a little bit and some of those processes. So that kind of made me think about, what's better to try Bitcoin or keep this, because my family, we're trying to move out to Charlotte in a few years. And so I was thinking about transitioning my real estate to there. So in the meantime, I'm in Bitcoin and I'm loving every second of it so far.
Okay, let's hold on here. Why Charlotte? I love Charlotte.
Oh man, I don't know. I guess we felt kind of called to go to Charlotte. My family, we love to travel. One of our goals is to go to all 50 states, and we've done 36 states so far. My kids are 9, 10, and 15. And one of the visits was Charlotte, North Carolina. And man, it's a beautiful place. The Queen City, the green trees, the kind people, the barbecue, it's a hidden gem. You know what I mean?
I was just there in March, April. So my son's mom is from Asheville, North Carolina,
Oh, nice.
and we went up to Charlotte to watch the basketball game, and then we went up to Winston Salem to meet up with some of the people in the school community. But yeah, every time I go to North Carolina, I love, yeah, I love Charlotte. Charlotte's is an awesome area. So that's like I said, I tell everyone I'm the weird one. I'll probably retire in North Carolina, South Carolina area instead of Hawaii. Like that's kind of the plan for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. Do you view Bitcoin as a hedge, a growth play, or a total revolution?
Oh, I think it's all three. You know what I mean? So definitely a total revolution. Because of the limited supply, because of the continual money printing from the government. Look at the houses that we got. I mean, I bought a 100-year-old house and renovated it. It's not like it was a nicer house. It just that money is worth less than it was back then, right? And so things are more expensive. You go to In-N-Out Burger or Burger Joint, and the burgers were 10 bucks or 10 cents, and now they're could be 10 bucks. You know what I mean? But so I think it's a revolution in that way. I think it also is able to it's digital gold in a way that you could, part of the reason we moved to fiat too is because gold was heavy. You can't just carry around gold. You're going to get robbed, especially if you have a lot of it and it's hard to transfer. But money, paper money, you could just take it anywhere you want. It's light and it's more feasible to work with. Well, digital gold's just like that. We kind of already started it, in my opinion. Visa, MasterCard, all those little cards, they're all digital. Every time you're swiping your ATM, you're not really taking real cash anymore. I mean, very rarely are you really doing change in cash. So, so my thought was, I'm going to go with this digital revolution, and I think banks are coming on, and everything's going to come on because it's just easy to move. It's light. It's worldwide. There's not different sorts of yen and all those things. I know there's different cryptos, but in terms of Bitcoin, there's only one Bitcoin, and not everything is all the same. And just like the United States is different from maybe Thailand, or there's a big difference in how they are, the economy of it. And this economy of Bitcoin, it's a community of people that can move from one country to another without worried about you see even in Russia they do sanctions, right? And they shut down all their banks, and now you can't freeze Bitcoin. That's why if you have Bitcoin, you throw it on a cold wallet, there's nothing they can do about it. And people like that. I like that idea. Not that I'm against the government, but I just like the ability to control my future. And I get a little nervous when they start printing. You know, they printed 80% of the world's money during COVID. So all of a sudden, if you had a savings account, you really lost a lot of money, even though it was the same dollar amount, it had the less value. And for Bitcoin, it kind of goes like that hedge against the inflation. Michael Zuber says inflation makes me rich. You know what I mean? And that's why I think Bitcoin is making me wealthier every year, and I'm hoping it continues to do so. I got lucky too. I wasn't in during those major drops. And I also kind of think the Bitcoin winter is over. I don't think it's going to have such a big decline anymore because of new government and new legislation. Now they have banks being able to allow it to custody it, and they're just going to continue to do frameworks like the Clarity Act and the Genius Act and business that allows things to pass and people to get more comfortable that it's a legit. It's only a $2 trillion I guess value store of value for the world right now is Bitcoin, but there's trillions across the whole world. So as everyone peels off 1%, 2%, even Michael Zuber, which I love, he was a little more willing to have me on that, Bitcoin. He was more real estate, and he was like, sure, I'll have you on. He was awesome. I love that guy. And
He was willing to have you on until you started saying I leveraged like 150%, and they said, "Oh wait, hold on here. I don't know if that's a good idea."
yeah, yeah. No, I didn't at the beginning. At the beginning, it was all mine, and then I just saw how things work, and I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. But just stick to your own plan. Actually, after everything I've done, the best thing I recommend is just buying and holding it, and just leaving it alone, going on with your day, and everything's going to be fine.
Okay, well, let's see. That's gonna lead into Frank Old Guy REI's questions. He says, "Do you ever pull any of your profits and put them somewhere else to hedge against the dips in the market?"
Well, if you're a Bitcoin person, you tend to believe the dips are just another buying opportunity to kind of go back up into that same amount that it was, and you just make more money on the money. So that's what I tend to do. I also, because you could die and your family doesn't know how to access your password or your cold wallet, or you could just get older, have memory issues. Just a lot of things could happen. I store mine in ibit, just a safer way of doing it. I think personally, if you're a new investor, I recommend just doing it in ibit. And and so with the dips, I actually, with ibit, you could sell what's called a covered call option. Covered call options are great. You could put a strike price of what you believe the number will not hit during that week, that month, that 6 months, that year, whatever it is, and they'll pay you money to kind of hold your shares. And if it does not hit, you just keep all that money. And if it goes over that amount, well, then they sell your shares, but you get that amount that it was sold at. So if the number was $400 and you say I'm going to sell a $500 one, long story short is if it goes over $500, they still have to pay you the $500 minimum on each share, but you also got the money that you sold the option. So it's a little more trickier. It's not that hard though, but that's how I cash flow. And I was like, wow, I could really cash flow through this. Very exciting. So I actually make a lot more money doing my covered call options on my IBIT than I did in real estate. But I still love real estate. Again, I love real estate.
All right, I just want to remind everyone, Nick is trying to grow his YouTube channel and new Instagram page. So there are his links in the chat. So go follow him and subscribe. Also, if you haven't seen his interview on Michael Zuber's channel, there is the interview for the link. So go check it out. What would be your response to people who say Bitcoin is too volatile or too risky to take seriously?
Well, I think that it was risky in the beginning. It was a new developing cryptocurrency, digital. People worry about getting hacked. So I think all of those things were true, honestly. I think things have changed now with the new administration. I also think when you have big companies like BlackRock buying Bitcoin, they run the world. So if they're invested in that, if Howard Lutnick's Cantor Fitzgerald is invested in MicroStrategy for billions of dollars, and that's their main source of investment, I think that you feel pretty good about it. When some of the biggest banks in the world are like, yes, this is okay. When Larry Fink of BlackRock says you should invest at least 1 to 2% of your net income in Bitcoin, I think it's okay, and they're going to increase that percent every year, in my opinion. So I think That's okay to be uncertain. That's okay to be nervous. I would just research more. One thing I did with the real estate is you got to put in your 1,000 hours. You know what I mean? You got to watch your podcasts, your YouTubes. You got to read a couple books. For me, it was the Bitcoin Standard and a few others. But with that research, you kind of get comfortable. It's kind of like taking a test. I'm a high school teacher, and if you're nervous about the test, one of the best things you could do to feel more confident is to study more, right? And prepare for it. So if you study more, you'll learn that it's not likely to, it's not likely to be hacked. It's not likely to even fall as far as it used to before, because of the new Clarity Acts and things in that nature. Right now, you're still early. I really believe this is like pre-internet, like just starting out, and it's going to get way bigger over the next probably, by 2030 it's going to be way bigger. And so invest a little bit, I recommend. It's not financial advice, but whatever you're comfortable with. I love how they throw that out there. Everyone's got to do that. I don't know if it's even true, but if you feel comfortable and your individual investing, why not diversify? Like I said, I love real estate. I'm still going to buy more. I have my own house I'm in right now, and I love it. And I remodel it. And also, just to add, have I took some money out? Yeah, I took some money out and remodeled my house, and bought new appliances and just things for vacation and stuff like that. So, uh, but I also bought the dips, and that's what I like to do with some of the cash, is just buy the dips. Right now is another dip opportunity, and as you see how I recommend learning about liquidation heat maps, you see that this pullback even yesterday was normal. And a lot of times with news like poor jobs report that came out yesterday, the revisions, they'll just, market makers could manipulate anything, the stock or Bitcoin or any type of crypto during that time. Now, most crypto isn't good. So I really recommend don't get other crypto. Like 95% of it is just so manipulated, and they'll rug pull you. And it's not the same thing. They're two different things, like I said. One, it's like a country just printing $1 zillion overnight versus America that's kind of, you could trust the dollar a lot more. So I think you can't trust it nearly as much as you used to.
Interesting you mentioned it. So, like you said, you feel like we're still kind of early. So, in 10 years, do you think people will regret not buying Bitcoin now, or do you think this window is already closing?
Oh, we're barely at the beginning, in my opinion. In 10 years, it will be a million a coin, I believe. So I think regret, I don't know, you know, regret's kind of personal. Sometimes you could regret that you didn't get that rental. Like, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? That's what I was thinking a lot after I got my first one, and then I had the nerve to get my second one. And I was like, man, I should have been doing this. But at the same time, you're doing it now. And doing it now is the best time to do it, because that's your only opportunity. And so, in this present gift of purchasing, I think that putting a percent, 2%, and then going on to more, like I said, I'm 95%. It's kind of a joke. You see over $1 million, and then you look at your bank account and you got like $8, so it's kind of funny.
Old guy REI says you're very passionate about how wait, you're very passionate about Bitcoin. Has that taken any of your attention away from your work?
In terms of teaching, yeah, it does. Yes and no. You know what I mean? I still got a duty to the students. Like I said, I'm a high school AP World History teacher. I love the students. I care for them. Their test scores were the best they've been in 20 years this year, so I'm pretty proud of that and excited. But at the same time, I talk Bitcoin in class and let them know what I'm doing. And we have we have a financial class at our school where they go over Dave Ramsey, they go over Kiyosaki, and we do a lot of cool things at our school. So one of the things that I like to do is just teach kids about life. I do a GPA assignment during New Year's: goals, plans, and actions. And what are your physical goals? What are your financial goals? What are your family goals? And they really love it, and they get excited about it. And they're going to be adults within a year, 2 years, depending on what grade they're in. And I just take my passion and bring it to work, and then I take my work and bring it home. And I'm married. I got 3 kids, and yeah, life's busy, but real estate's busy too. It's a passive thing. I love the first of the month when I would get my rent, and I don't know, something about it just made me feel like a boss, right? Just the coolest thing in the world. Um, but I also like the fact that I could kind of set it and forget it with Bitcoin. I could just leave it alone, let it go up. Like I said, you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You just leave it alone, and over time you check on it, and you water it and maybe buy a little bit more, and that's about it. Sell some covered calls.
So Proof Oak is here. He's the one always asking for someone with crypto or Bitcoin sharing knowledge. So finally got him on for you, Proof Oak. Someone who's willing to come on and talk live about it. But he says preach. And Jimmy tunes in and he believes we are some dumb, dirty scammers. I believe so. We get that quite a bit. But thanks for tuning in, anyways. Let's see. What is there any metrics or indicators you personally follow when deciding to maybe buy, sell, or hold?
Yeah, so I use, I could check the Binance liquidation heat map. You can just search it on Google, throw it up, and it will have like yellow, green bars. If you know anything about what's going on with Binance and Coinbase and some of those others, is they do manipulate the market on bad news, especially where they'll just sell and then they'll just buy it back. So because what some people do, they buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, but they do 100x like perpetual. So they get 100 times every dollar goes up or down, and so they don't want to pay those out 100x or 50x, right? So they're always going to sweep them in time and take their money. Truthfully, the one difference between Bitcoin or even crypto and stocks is that for crypto, you could wash trade. In stock market, if you sell at a loss, you have to wait 30 days before you could buy back in at that price if you want to write off the losses. In crypto, there is no such rule. So these people sell their own coins just to swipe the price down, and then they buy them back for cheaper, and they liquidate all those people. So they got all their money, and they got the coins back for cheaper. So that's what goes on. So I look for that, and really, when you understand that, you don't get as nervous. I used to really, oh my gosh, we're down, whatever percent, and it's going to zero. I would get nervous too. And now that I've learned about it, I've studied that heat map. I realize, okay, I should wait to buy more. To go back to the other question, buying more is when I see it swept. And right now it just got swept again. I might go down a little bit more, but like I said, we got bad news, right? We got the jobs report, and these guys aren't dumb. They try to make it seem like it just went down on its own on the bad news a little bit, but I mean it's to be planned. Iran, we bombed Iran, it went down and swept all the leverage. So it happens over and over and over again, and things like the Clarity Act and other bills are going to actually help prevent that from happening. When they stop allowing wash trading for crypto, that'll be a great day, honestly, for everyone to jump in and be less stressed. I can't wait for that.
Proof Oak says, "Do you self custody? I don't trust myself to keep my coins safe."
Yeah, proof oak. So I don't self custody. I do think it's amazing though for people that do. And I just, again, what if I got in a motorcycle accident and died, or I hit my head and I can't remember my passcode or anything else? So do I think owning your own Bitcoin specifically is wonderful? Yes. But do I do that? No. I put mine in iBit and I just let BlackRock, Larry Fink and those guys handle it. They're responsible for it, and they better have it right, and they should, because they're liable based on SEC. It is a stock, IBIT, but they buy Bitcoin with your money, so it kind of goes up or down at the same, almost nearly the same rate as the Bitcoin price does. So no, I use IBIT, and like I said, I do several covered calls on them. You need 100 shares to do a covered call. Now I have thousands of shares, but each covered call, you sell it for a little bit of money, you could cash flow. That's what I do. So right now I'm cash flowing on my on a dip week. I make more money because my covered call money went up and I was able to cash in. So that's like a whole nother video. But yeah, no, do I self custody? No. I got an IBIT. Like I said, I don't trust myself either. And I don't trust my family to have to remember what to do and everything else. I'm also part of a little community of two other men that are heavy investors in Bitcoin. So we text and talk all the time. And during that time, we discuss things like, do we self custody or not? One of my friends does. He has a bunch of coins that he self custodies, and that's what he's comfortable with. He also has some IBIT, so he can sell covered calls. Because one thing you can't do with Bitcoin is you can't sell the covered call options with it because it's stuck as a coin. But with the IBIT stock, you can sell covered call options. So that's pretty good. So another thing that you could also do, like you could buy a treasury company like MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor owns MicroStrategy, and they own the world's largest amount of Bitcoin in terms of like a little treasury company. So they have over 600,000 coins, billions of dollars. If you just watched on Thursday, they had the largest EPS in years. It was expected to be negative, and yet it was over $30, which is huge. The stock went down because it was already priced in. A lot of times they sell the news. That's why I said you don't dig up that seed every day. You just let it go. Don't worry about it. Don't get too excited about big news. Just let it jump when it jumps.
That's a perfect lead into how do you manage the psychological roller coaster of big swings in price?
I couldn't manage it very well, to be honest with you, in the beginning. It was stressful because I didn't know enough. I was still learning. I was still worried, just like everyone else. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I just put all my money from real hard asset, real estate, which I could see and touch and tangible, to something that is digital. And so that took some time to really understand. So one of the things I did was study more. When I studied more, I found the Bitcoin, or I found the liquidation heat map. So that told me a lot more. I go on X and I read articles or people that post, and I find out more of what's going on. Is there a Bitcoin problem? Are we people worried about paper Bitcoin or something else like that, that aren't really real coins? But the more you educate yourself, the more you're comfortable with learning, growing, and knowing what's going on. So have there been some times when I struggled myself with that emotion? Yes. And like I said, the best thing I've ever done, I stopped trading it as much and I just went buy and hold. And I try to just stay off of the price a lot more. I still look up new articles. I notice that they tend to post a lot of negative articles at the same time when they're trying to sweep the number down, and when they're trying to boost it. There's a lot of positive articles and euphoria going on. So there's a lot of mental, emotional manipulation going on that really doesn't happen in real estate. But when you could just put your phone down and stay away from it and stop looking up the price, stop digging up the seed every day, you really get a lot more comfortable. That's down. That's okay. I wasn't planning on selling anyways, right? You're in there for a long-term hold. I'm at least there for 5 more years because I do believe it's going to go to a million a coin, and then I'll be quitting my job, and I'll be doing that hopefully pretty soon. And like I said, moving to Charlotte probably one day. I was going to go to Hawaii. I love Oahu, Koalina especially, but I don't know. My heart's called to maybe do mission work or something in Charlotte. But yeah.
I love that. See Josh Burdick from the One Rental at a Time community tuning in. Josh, if you did tune in to see Derek, the mobile home parks, he unfortunately couldn't make it, but you may recognize Nick. Nick was just recently interviewed on Michael Zuber's channel. He went all in on Bitcoin. So he's also trying to grow his YouTube channel and new Instagram page. So his YouTube channel and Instagram links are in the chat. So go subscribe. But yeah, let's kind of talk about that also, the interview that you talked about. And, you know, maybe you can dig in a little bit more, like how you said you went all in, how leveraged you were, like how, I guess, when you look back on it, how risky really was it?
I don't know. The more you know, it's kind of a tough answer. I guess it depends who you're talking to. Some of my buddies that I'm with, that I told you I text with, and one of them I even work with, there it doesn't feel risky at all. It feels like, oh my gosh, all these people don't know what's going on and we do. It's kind of a weird feeling like that. Now, other times when you're new, like I said, you haven't studied as much as they have, and you haven't put in your 1,000 hours of learning. It just it's a lot more nervousness. But for me, I feel like we're at the beginning of the internet, and everyone, since it's been $1, since it's been 3,000, since it's been 50,000, now it's $113,000. I guess at one point you're going to say that they were right, and this is kind of a wave of the future. And there's articles where the internet wasn't going to last, so the same thing happens with Bitcoin. Now, again, 95% of crypto isn't good. Don't do it. Be safe out there. Don't get swept. Don't even try to go for the quick, easy money, where you think you could trade it and you're outsmart those people. They're smart. You're probably not going to do that. Stick with the Bitcoin and stick with your plan of just trusting and believing it. And like I said, like anything, whether you're learning from Dion, whether you're learning from Zuber, whether you're learning from Lumberjack or yourself, you just learn, and then you get more comfortable doing it. And then you finally grow a pair and you decide I'm going to get a little bit or I'm going to get a rental. And you know what? It worked out. And, in the beginning, I was down like 90 grand right away. And I was like, well, this was a bad idea, And then there was a day I made 255,000 in a day. I remember vividly. I was like, oh my God, I call it a Lambo day. Anything over 200 grand, call it Lambo day. I'd never really thought I'd have one, to be honest with you, but I did. And and those days are exciting. You lose big money too in a day, not as exciting, but that's why I try to disconnect from the emotional aspect of it, not dig up the seed every day and see if it's growing. I know it's going to grow over time. I know it's going to be this beautiful flower, tree, whatever you want to call it. So just have faith, let it grow, and leave it alone.
I think he may have heard you talking about him, but Dion Talk Financial Freedom has tuned in. Nick was talking earlier about using the binder strategy to increase rents on his rental properties, but it
Yes.
wasn't also keeping up with like insurance costs and whatnot. Dion, my book is on the way. Out in Hawaii, it takes a little bit longer, so I did order Dion's new book that has come out. So everyone go check it out. But Dion does have a question. He says, if you own crypto, how do you turn it into cash flow?
Yeah. Hello, Dion, man. Awesome to have a question for you. I've asked you a million questions on your Tuesday live streams. And if you haven't been on it, every Tuesday he goes as long as the questions do most of the time. And very exciting to get a question from Dion. How do I cash flow? I mentioned that a little earlier. And the truth is, I use covered call options. Really simple. I have iBit, which is where I own my Bitcoin, and I sell options. You can sell 100 shares at a time. I have thousands of shares, and I sell an option. You could sell weekly, monthly, a year option, and they'll just pay you cash right away for those options, depending on the strike price you pick. And the strike price might get hit, it might not get hit. It's a little more detailed than to explain, but let's just say the stock price for iBit right now is $65, and I want to sell a covered call option for 30 cents at at $70 by next week. Well, by next Friday, I'll sell 3,200 shares, we'll say, of at 30 cents. And if it doesn't reach $70, I just keep all the 30 cents. It's really that simple. If it goes over that, then they'll just buy my shares at the $70, which also means if I'm okay with selling it at $70, that means everything went up $5 more on my stock price, and I could just rebuy back in or wait for another dip to buy. But yeah, I sell covered call options, man. I make a lot of money, and I couldn't believe it as a real estate guy. I was like, this is depressing because I don't know. Once I learned that, I was like, this is great. So yeah, I cash flow big time off covered call options. One month I made 100 grand just off covered call options, and I couldn't do that in my real estate, but I still love real estate again. I'm not knocking it. I think you should do both. I think it's incredible. Great way to diversify too, and but my cash flow, going back to what financial firefighter Mark was saying, is that I used your strategy, and it was great. It worked wonderful to get rent increases. But my rent increases for me were like the insurance cost was just going up enormously these last few years. And they were just eating into all my rent increases. And then, the tenants, at least here in SoCal, not as excited about rent increases. So I was like, man, I'm angry, making them angry. And I'm not even making any money off it. It's going to the insurance company. So I don't think that's I don't know. Again, he's did rentals a lot longer than I have, so maybe that's not always been the case. Maybe the insurance cost doesn't normally go up like it has been. I know not the same price, but maybe it never goes up for 5 years or something. I don't know. But for me, every year the insurance was going up more than my rental prices, which is kind of crazy.
Flavio also says that his looks like his book is on the way. So he does, but he doesn't know how he's going to read it. He said so. But if you haven't, there is the Amazon link for Dion's new book. So go check it out. Order your copy. I'm sure it's. I think he already put it's like a what, top new release on Amazon maybe. But go order your copy. And I saw the excitement Nick got when Dion tuned in. So Dion, if you are still here, there is Nick's new YouTube channel and Instagram page. So please go follow, give him a subscribe, help him grow that channel. I think the biggest thing I like is that you have your feet in both places, right? So a lot of Bitcoin people I talk to, they're strictly Bitcoin, or real estate people, they're just strictly real estate. So you actually kind of blend the two worlds together. So you have experience, like you're saying, landlording, rental increase, insurance, but you also got the volatility of the Bitcoin side and whatnot. And there was someone in the school community who took some of their profits from Bitcoin to buy a property in Pittsburgh, all cash, a rental property. Are you ever looking at taking profits from Bitcoin to put in a hard asset like real estate?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm trying to decide on in the future is I'm taking that cash flow and I'm going to buy real estate probably with that if I don't end up continuing to buy more Bitcoin. Like I said, I do believe that we're still in the beginning stages. I think it's the early internet and we still have if you break down bond money and real estate money, art money and just straight cash, there's a lot of money out there in the globe. There's only $2 trillion in Bitcoin right now. So I do believe if just 1% moves over, well, I mean, we're talking about doubling, tripling, quadrupling, going from 2 to 4 to 4 to 6 to 6 to $12 trillion in Bitcoin. Even to add to that, I want to just thank Dion for all he's done. I followed him. I mean, he was one of the reasons I got a rental property in the first place. He answered all the questions, and he made me feel so much more comfortable, and he's such a great teacher that I was able to do it, follow it, and honestly, um, I'm here even at the Bitcoin because I bought rentals because of Dion. Honestly, Dion even more than Zuber, even more than Lumberjack. He taught every Tuesday, and like I said, check out his page. He's a mentor to me and doesn't know who I am. You know what I mean? But he's done a lot. Yeah.
Apparently, he does know who you are, right? So he gives you a thumbs up. He says, "Love hearing someone talk about an asset class they mastered."
Yes.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Nick.
That makes me so happy. I can't even tell you.
I saw the excitement on your face when you saw Dion's comment come through.
Yep.
But let's see, Isaac Flores. Haven't seen you here before, but thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. He says, "How long do you typically hold on to your crypto equity positions?"
Well, that kind of decide, I hate the word crypto. I like to just use the word Bitcoin. I told you I believe 95% of crypto is terrible. Don't buy it. It's a scam. It really is a scam. They just rug pull you. They take your money. They could just print more shares or more coins, you know what I mean? As you say it. And you don't want to get that. That's why Bitcoin's different than all the other ones. There's a limited supply. And how long do I hold? I'm still trying to decide that a little bit because sometimes I want to buy more Bitcoin or IBIT so I could sell more covered call, more cash flow, keep going and growing in that way. And sometimes I decide to sell some. So again, going back to that liquidation heat map, if you go even on it right now, you're going to see that there's a lot of yellow towards the 120, 121 mark. So I know that 120 mark is going to get swept in Bitcoin. They're going to go capture that again. So that might be an indicator that I should sell a little bit or trim a little bit. So these days I haven't sold any lately because I just sell the covered call options. I don't worry about it. I used to worry a lot more in the beginning about like when do I profit take and when do I sell some and things like that. Well, now I don't really worry about that because I sell covered call options. So I make my cash flow and the rest I just keep the seed planted. It's kind of like, again, going back to that seed. You want to dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You know that it is. But now that I'm actually getting fruit from it, right? Say I'm getting oranges off the tree, that's my covered call money. So I keep the tree planted. I don't dig it up and move it. I just take my oranges off the top every week. Now I buy weekly covered call options and I think it's great. Obviously you got to pay some taxes on your money earned, which is okay. I have no problem paying taxes when I'm making money. I paid the most taxes I ever paid last time because I sold my properties and I did some things I thought I would never do because I was like, I'm never going to pay taxes in real estate. In this case, I paid some taxes, and that was okay.
I think you touched on it earlier too, like how Dion helped you get a rental, the way he teaches. I think it relates to a lot of people, and you also being in the education system, being a teacher? Have you taken things away from Dion's style? And do you see your kids getting excited about Bitcoin and crypto when you talk to them about it?
Oh yes, they're definitely getting excited. And all of it. I do like like the lumberjack. I take my kids to the real estate. Whether we're fixing something, where we're buying it, we're walking through a new property that we might purchase. I had my wife become a real estate agent, and she was the one who sold the properties when we had it, just so we could get a little bit more money. And for Dion, yeah, we like I said, I used the binder method for what he was saying, and I really use all the methods to really learn. Buying it off the MLS or whatever it is that needs to be done in order to just find a good deal. You're really just waiting to find a good deal. So I thought I found a good deal in real estate. Which I did. I made a few $100,000 in a short amount of time, and then I went into Bitcoin and made a lot of money and a short amount of time, and I just think it's going to continue to grow. So yeah, I think I learned from both of them. That's what I said. His new book, I bet it's a masterpiece on learning. I can't wait to get my copy because the way he teaches is it's just a wonder. I was a teacher myself. I guess maybe I identified that. I know he wasn't a teacher, but his story, he teaches really well through experience, and the way he could break things down, I really respect it. And as a teacher myself, you try to break things down into concepts that people can understand. In my case, high school students, and into their brain. And yeah, so for my kids, I try to teach them about Bitcoin. I try to teach them about other cryptos and why they're not good. Some of them are still young, 9 and 10. They just see a big dollar amount on the brokerage or something, and they're excited about maybe their new Nintendo Switch game or something. But they're learning a little bit. One thing they're learning about is that you kind of don't want to work for someone else. It's not that people are bad. It's not that work is terrible either. I love my job. Even like Dion, he loved his job, but I don't want to teach forever anymore. Now that I've learned a little bit more, I coached basketball for 20 years. I've coached 3 WNBA players. I coached some men in the beginning as well. And coached some college, and I stopped coaching a couple of years ago, and I was like, what am I going to do? Dion talks about retire to something. Well, I just retired to real estate kind of, even though I'm still teaching, and then now I'm retiring to Bitcoin. And then it's been cool to be on Zuber's channel last week or whatever, and you posted that video, and I'm excited to even start YouTube. I got my new channel, like you said, and I don't know if there's probably no followers or subscribers yet, but I'm working on it, and it's because of Dion, Zuber, yourself, Mark, and just like be bold, try new things, and don't be afraid of what others think, because you got to retire to something. So this fires me up. This is my passion. This is my excitement.
Absolutely, I can see the passion in you. I think I think you had 2 or 3 subscribers this morning. You just started it, so hopefully we get you to maybe like 10 after this live.
That would be cool.
But let's see. Rad. So Rad is tuning in. He's the one I was talking about earlier. He took his profits, bought a rental property in Pittsburgh, all cash, I believe. But he says, I've been in crypto for 6 years. I've been through all the crap. Lost 78% on XRP and days. Got hit in Luna, Voyager. But this time I'm cashing out. Take your profits. Could be a bit more upside, but it might be done. Remember, the masses always lose. And he says, how do you know it'll keep growing forever? The returns are already diminishing. Each cycle brings less and the risk is higher. It's not the same game anymore.
Yeah, it's a better game now, is what I would say to that. The cycle is over, I believe, because now you have institutional buyers. Now, the things that he mentioned, not a shot at him, they suck. XRP and all those things, they just reprint more coins and they rug pull you. Those aren't good. Those are the 95% bad cryptos out there. And it's not his fault. I bought a bunch of those things myself. That's why I told you. I lost money on Doge and these infinite number of printing. Even Ethereum was bad. That's why it stopped growing, even though it had the big name, and it's came back a little bit. But if you look over the last 4 years, it's flat. Bitcoin's different. One, because of a thing called game theory. Institutional buyers are buying, countries are buying. Our president talks about buying Bitcoin in a strategic reserve. The narrative is completely changed, and there's a reason why they chose Bitcoin, and that's because there's a limited fixed supply. It is digital gold, and unlike real gold, where they find more every year, they find more gold. In this case, there's going to be a limited amount of Bitcoins, and there's not going to be any more after that. And once that supply crunch fully happens, then I believe that the number is going to just be ridiculous. That's why I said I do believe it's going to be 500,000, a million a coin. Some people believe it'll be 10 million a coin one day. And so I think there's a difference there. I love that he went into those, and I like I said, 90. It goes with my narrative. 95% are crap. If I liked another one, it'd probably be like Solana because of the chain that it has and everything goes on it. But I really wouldn't recommend buying anything other than Bitcoin to anybody, because that's the one that I feel most comfortable about. And like I said, not financial advice. You got to do those things because everyone's responsible for their own trading. But I believe in Bitcoin because of the fixed supply. That's why I loved real estate. Again, limit fixed supply. That's why I made a lot of money in Southern California, because there's nowhere to build houses over here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's why ADUs are coming along. And I was like, oh, ADUs are an option because there's nowhere to build. So people are turning their garages like I did into a rental, and someone needs to live there because we have a massive population and nowhere to live. We have the foothill mountains right here where I live, and you're not going anywhere. The ocean, you're not building in the water. You know what I mean? So they built everything they could build for a lot of the places over here. They tried to build higher, but there's just not enough places to live, at least here in SoCal. Other places, maybe like in Phoenix area or Las Vegas, they could keep building out. So that's why I think supply and demand will always be an issue in some of those places, but they might have great tenant landlord laws. And that's what I said. So we got bad tenant landlord laws, good for tenants, I guess, bad for landlords. But then other states have better cash flow and more safety, but less, less equity raises, you know what I mean? Appreciation. So, it's all different everywhere you go.
So Dion is subscriber number 4, he said. Like I
Amen.
said, everyone, there is Nick's new YouTube channel in the chat. So go hop off real quick, go subscribe, come right back. Let's get him to at least 10 by the end of this live stream. But let's see. Hey, Chris from Virginia is tuning in, Chris Webb. But Isaac also says, yeah, passive equity investments are a good complement to cash flow producing properties. Hey, Cashflow Johnny Ramirez is here. He says, "Sup, real estate freaks." Isaac Flores says, "I really think investors shouldn't just stick to one asset class. You can really learn a lot from the stock market that applies to the real estate market and vice versa." I
Can I comment on that real quick, Mark?
Sure.
Um, so I agree with that. The only thing is, like in the shiny new object syndrome. Well, also first, thank you, Dion. If you ever want me on your channel, I'd love to be on that as well if you're still listening. But shiny new object syndrome, where like you want to do short-term rentals, and then you got storage, and you got the mobile home parks, like but you want to do it yourself. All the different ones could get a lot more complicated than you think. People make it easier than it sounds sometimes. Now, I find single family homes the easiest thing, or small multifamily, I should say, 4 and under to be the best for me, and the way I manage. And like, I'm kind of the lazy investor like Dion kind of talks about. So I was like, oh, I identify with this. I don't want to have a 80 apartment complex. You know what I mean? It just seems overwhelming and daunting. Not that I don't think I could do it. I just don't want to be a part of that. You know what I mean? I wanted to just do simple, small multifamily investing. So I think even with stocks or people, you get Bitcoin, and then you're like, well, let me do these other coins. Let me, and then you don't really master any of those. You know what I mean? You don't really know all the ins and outs. So with small multifamily, and you're going to manage yourself, you better learn everything about self management, because you're responsible for that big asset, right? If you're stretching out into all Airbnbs and all these other things, well, you might not be a master at those, and you could really lose a lot. You could lose your shirt, really, because you didn't know what you were doing. You thought you did. You thought it was simple. It's just like, but it's not. So I just recommend, even if you stocks, and just be careful on what you're investing in. You could really lose a lot of money. I've lost money. You know what I mean? Just off a tweet. I had a lot of money in Tesla, and Elon sends a tweet, and I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm down 50,000 today because of a tweet. And I'm stressed, and I'm sad, and I'm upset, but so you got to kind of learn a little bit about that. You got to learn about the money printing. That's why I said, do your research on Bitcoin. Continue to do your research on small multifamilies on channels like Dion and Mark's here, and make sure you're obviously on his Instagram. And I'm just getting started, and I'm just inspired by all these people that that I've been, but I'm just a guy, you know what I mean? I'm a husband. I go to church. I love my wife and my kids, and I teach. You know what I mean? I was a basketball coach for 20 years, and now I'm taking another chance. You know, that's another thing from Dion's story. Whether he was a cop, or he's a trucking company, you know, just different things that you're doing. You're not really stuck. You're not just the firefighter for the rest of your life. You can be a real estate investor in Pittsburgh, right? And do whatever you want. You know, just like other people's stories. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even me, I never thought I'd want to leave the firehouse, but even like now, like for anyone, like I said, I apologize for maybe background noise. I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone. I had shoulder surgery on Monday, so I'm using my ice compression as we speak. But let's see, we do have Isaac Flores. He also says most people only sources of income is from their employment, thinking that their job will always be safe with no cash flow producing assets to fall back on in the event they get laid off. Yeah. Chris Webb says, I agree with Isaac, but only after discrepancy income is high from a focused asset class. Think of W 2. You don't get paid to drive trucks, do the accounting, sales, and sweep the floor. All right. Got Big Andy from Ohio tuning in. Like I said, here is Nick's new YouTube channel. So go jump off. Go please subscribe, everyone, then come back. Oh, Andy says he's subscribed also. Harrison, Trade Better 99 has tuned in. He says, good morning. Sorry if I missed this question. Nick, do you have a favorite blockchain for smart contracts?
Um, no, I don't have anything like that for smart contracts and anything like that. Like I said, I just keep it real simple. My brokerage, I just use Robinhood, and I get the IBIT, and I I sell covered call options on it. I used to sell long options. I buy MicroStrategy as a stock too, but I personally, if I was starting out, I tell my friends, I tell my own children if they were old enough, I'd just be like, just buy IBIT and hold, and teach them how to sell covered call options in a safe way. It's called, if you look, there's Greeks on the bottom of covered call options. A 10 delta is a safe Greek to buy. So when you sell your option, it's not as valuable. You know, if you sell it at the money or lower than what the strike price is, you could get way more money. You get a lot of money. But if it goes over that amount, then you'd have to buy to close it and pay more. Long story short, if you want just safe cash flow, you sell 10 delta covered call options. I do it weekly. A lot of other people do it every 45 to 90-day contracts, and you know, that's probably the best way for me. Yeah. And I don't do perp trading, and I don't do futures, and I don't do a lot of other things. I really try to keep it simple, just like I did with my real estate. Even though I ventured down and turned a garage into an ADU, which was kind of, you know, I was like, can I do it? I had a lot of fear in that, you know, but you can't let fear control you. And you know, I was a teacher for a reason. I got a check every month on the first, and that's why I did it. Other than obviously the kids and the community, I really didn't care about money growing up like that. Not that I grew up poor, but I just wasn't. Didn't control my life. You know, I wanted to help community, and that's what I did. You know, I had youth basketball camps and coached high school camps and coached college, but you know, to me, it's all about the people, the community. And so kind of building a new community, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, talking to you, Mark, it's kind of fun because it's like me. You know, I know all the coaches in Southern California, you know what I mean? So it's kind of weird to now talk to people in this realm and grow and be a part of it. And I'm just so thankful for you and all the others that taught me.
Well, like Dion kind of mentioned earlier, it's fun to see someone who's picked an asset class that they've now become somewhat of an expert in it. Now, how would you have someone start? Do you think learning off of YouTube? Is there books you follow? Like, where would you start if you were starting over to learn about Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I would start with, let's see, I would start with just reading the Bitcoin Standard. Even those Simple Path to Wealth, all those little books, even Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know if you know, I know Robert Kiyosaki is a little crazy, you know, but if you look at his posts now, he's always talking about Bitcoin, you know, buying Bitcoin too. And there's a reason for that because he understands money, you know, and so when you understand that they are printing money, if you understand what happened during COVID, and then if you understand for real estate the supply and demand, factor of like why houses can go up because less supply and high demand, and then why they could go down because of more supply and less demand. The same thing makes you attracted to Bitcoin. Like I said, a lot of the other cryptos, not to offend all the other people that love the other cryptos, but I don't find those to be safe, to be honest with you. But I do find Bitcoin to be a safer asset class, a risk off, if you will, and so that's what I think.
All right, looks like you're at 6. I said let's try to get you to 10. So there's Nick's new YouTube channel again. So let's get more subscribers on there. And like I said, anyone that may have been tuning in to hear Derek's story about mobile home parks, unfortunately, he had a last minute obligation, so he couldn't make it. But I think everything worked out. I think this, like I said, this was fun getting Nick on here. It's hard to get crypto or Bitcoin people to want to show their face on camera. So when you were on Zuber's channel, I was like, all right, he's willing to talk about it. I got to reach out. I got to try get him on. And like you said, hopefully you'll be able to get on Dion's channel. I think you have a lot of great information to share. You did talk about basketball. This is going to go a little off topic though. So I guess you're in LA, right? So you
Yeah.
must be a big Lakers fan. Are you?
I like the Lakers. I'm not a LeBron fan though, so
I
that's
was
kind of tough. But I am a Laker fan. Yeah.
all right. So who would be your starting five Lakers of all time?
Oh man, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Kareem. I'll go Kareem at the power forward, or even Shaq when he was thin. Magic Johnson. What was that for? And Jerry West. Those are my five for sure. And I just don't think anybody's stopping him. I love Magic Johnson. I love Shaq. I met Shaq a couple times. He was a nice guy, very cool man. I met Kobe before, before all his
Okay, so
past.
who's your all-time Laker then?
Oh, see, that's always tough. But I just, you know, my childhood was Magic Johnson, so I love Magic Johnson as my. I'm not saying he's the greatest ever. I don't know Kobe, Shaq. Nobody could guard Kobe. Nobody could guard Shaq. And Magic Johnson was fun though. He had a smile that lit up a room. And one thing I like about my when I played basketball back in my thinner days, you know what I mean, was I loved to pass, and I just loved great
So you're
passes.
like Shaq then.
Oh
So
yeah, I went from Magic to Shaq real quick.
I don't know. Magic put on some weight towards the end too when he
Oh, he
came
did.
back.
He did. Yeah, he was trying to keep that weight off, man. But I just love it. Even like Magic Johnson, though, he got into movie theaters and coffee shops and start. Like you don't just stop where you are. You know what I mean? And I admire stuff like that. I really just thought I would teach and coach for the rest of my life. I really didn't think I would do anything else. And now I do more. I do some ministry stuff. I do obviously Bitcoin. I own my property. I'm going to own more. Like I said, I love to move to Charlotte in the next few years. I've already talked to a realtor out there. That was wonderful. And yeah, I just think stretching yourself, and not being afraid. And I also want to say I just have a great wife. She supported me even when it felt risky. She was like, no, we're doing it. You did the research. You have never let us down in any of your research. And I did the research by watching videos, like I said, YouTube on Bigger Pockets, and then Dion. I found Dion from Bigger Pockets, and then I watched Dion relentlessly every Tuesday, and then I Zuber, Daily Financial. I just love that, and Lumberjack. I want to make sure I'm not getting screwed on my when I'm fixing something. You know what I mean? So I just love that whole community there. And then all the people, I'd see the names, like even yourself, so it's kind of cool to put a face to it.
Well, on that point, then, will you be in Vegas? So, if everyone doesn't know, the Michael Zuber one rental at a time tickets for the event in February are on sale. I believe it might only be in school right now, though. And if you also didn't hear on his weekly wrap up with Ty yesterday, TY, Zuber may have hinted that this might be the last event for a while until we hit
Oh,
100 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. So, if you are thinking about going, I would say plan on going this year because it might be a while for the next one. But so, Nick, will you be there, you think, in Vegas?
Yeah, I'd love to be there. I don't know. We'll see. I told you just off camera. I think the event's amazing. I've never been yet because it's on Valentine's Day, usually on that weekend. And so I love my wife. And I don't want her mad at me, though. She wouldn't be mad, I guess, if I took her and we went. Man, Zuber's event, those people, I'm just so mesmerized. I watch, I listen, I'm jealous. I'm just like, man, I just want to hear and meet the people that are speaking, because they're just a community of people that want to give back. You know what I mean? That's what's crazy. That's what I found about real estate in general. When you coach basketball, every coach doesn't really want to share their best drills or their best plays. They kind of like a lot more secretive. It's a weird, if you're, my dad did construction. He owned his own construction company, but you didn't want to share the guy that gave you the jobs or something. You know what I mean? It was competitive. But in real estate like this, like there's enough houses for people to buy. You know what I mean? And people just share their knowledge and help each other. And so that event, I would encourage anybody to go to that event, because I know it's going to make you just feel better about yourself when you leave, that you can do it too. And you're learning from millionaires like myself. I'm a millionaire because of real estate and Bitcoin. And I wouldn't be without the community.
Highly agree. I think it's a great event. If you can make it, convince your wife. It'll be a Valentine's Day present or something in Vegas. Trade Better says, yes, can't wait to see Nick more. Yes, I have thrown that out to him. I said, hopefully he'll be a regular. We can do this a lot more often. He said he's subscriber number 7.
Nice.
Dion says, I learned from the same people you do, Nick. And as I mentioned, Dion's book is now available on Amazon. So
Yes.
there's a link. Go order it. And if you attend the event, maybe you can get it signed in person from Dion. Let's see. Josh Burdick says, I already purchased 2 VIP tickets. I'm bringing my wife this time. Yes, Josh went to year 1. He skipped year 2. Looks like he'll be attending year 3. And like I said, I'm not sure if Zuber just maybe feels a little tired or wiped out right now, but he did kind of mention that this could be the last event for a while until 100,000 subscribers. So take advantage, come to the event, hope to see everyone there. Like I said, Nick, hopefully you had a fun time, a lot of information. I love the passion, the energy, and hopefully we can do this again, man.
No, thank you, man, for having me. I appreciate it. It's been awesome, and I'm inspired. I got 7. I was thinking, how do you get to like Zuber 70,000 subscribers? When you have 0. But that's cool to have even 7 now, and to build a channel. And I just started working on a little book myself because I was inspired by Zuber and Dion. To just stretch yourself into things you're not used to doing. I really didn't even like reading, even though I got a master's degree, you know what I mean, and went to college. But now I'm here writing, and I love it. And I'm just thankful for you, Mark, for even reaching out to me and having me on your show. And yeah, I would love to come back and get to we'll talk more off camera too.
Cool. Andy says, I'm going to purchase 2 tickets, but can't decide VIP or general admission. Also have Dion's book ordered and should be here Monday. And waiting on my book. Yeah, you'll be waiting a long time, buddy. But quickly, so here is, like I said, one last time, Nick's YouTube channel, new Instagram page. But Nick, what can they expect from your YouTube channel and Instagram pages then before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I said I coached basketball for 20 years, so you're going to learn. It's called Lead, Pray, Huddle for a reason. One, I've been a leader for 20 years as a coach and as the leader of my classroom as a teacher. And yeah, I coached 3 WNBA players. I coached a little bit for Nike. I've coached for a college team, and now I'm here just trying to create other leaders. You know what I mean? And then as far as praying and my relationship with Christ, it's important. So you're going to find a little bit more information on how to support that through my ministries, and then hodling. How do you hodl Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? What am I doing? What are my next moves? What do I believe the future holds? And all the questions you might be asking today. I'm hoping to make videos on doing that. Like I said, I've just been inspired by going on Zuber's channel and all he's grown it to be, and Dion and Lumberjack and you, Mark, and I'm just gonna try. And if I fail, I just don't feel like I can fail, just because it's not a number. It's just something you do for fun, a hobby that you love, a passion, and I love basketball. You know what I mean? Like I taught just so I could be a coach at the high school mostly. You know what I mean? And so now I'm here, and I kind of feel the same fire in me for Bitcoin and real estate, and now maybe YouTube or writing a book, and just very exciting stuff. So I appreciate you, and thank you very much.
Oh, like I said, let's wrap things up. Stick around after I go off. We can talk off camera. One last thing then. Nick, are you working on a book? I think he heard you.
Yeah, I am working on a book. My book's going to be different than what we're talking about here, this first one. But I got 2 books actually. I wrote all the chapters for one book, it's going to be on basically faith and finance, and even from learning on community, how the importance of YouTube University and networking and things of that nature. And then I'm also working on a marriage devotional. I've been married for quite a long time now, and it's not easy all the time, but it's well worth it so far. I've been lucky to marry a great wife, and so I'm just trying to help people. And that's what it's all about. And that's what I've learned. I've been helped so much by these people, some of them which, like Dion, that don't know me personally, but they've helped me. And I want to help others just the same way. And I want to help you lead your family. I want to help you lead in finances. I want to help you lead your community and neighborhood. And I want to help you lead yourself in learning. You know what I mean? So that's what it's all about for me.
All right, I think that's a great way to wrap things up. Everyone, have a great weekend. Go subscribe to Nick's channel. Go pick up your ORAT tickets. Go pick up Dion's new book, and I'll be back Monday, I believe, live streaming same time. So everyone, have a great weekend. Thanks for